Welcome to the recorded webinar about the actual performance review process. As we saw in our earlier demonstration, Kim had set up a performance plan for herself and her manager, Anne-Marie, approved it. Throughout the course of the 12 months, Kim worked towards her goal. This review is showing what it will be like at the end of the 12 months when she's asked to review herself as an employee. Kim received an email letting her know she needed to log into the performance operating system, and when she arrived, she had a task waiting for her asking her to commence her self-assessment. Kim simply clicks on the link, and her self-assessment is opened. For the sake of today's demonstration, I have already completed the employee's ratings for each of the goals. What we can see is that Kim opened up the individual goal, gave herself a rating, and provided some comments on the goal. She worked through each of the 4 goals she had as well as her professional development section. She then moved over to a series of competencies, where she moved through giving herself an actual rating as well as comments if she felt it was necessary. At the bottom of the competency section, there was also a series of feedback questions that were asked of Kim. Again, she was able to add some comments to support those questions. The final tab is an overall ratings and comment tab. Again, Kim as an employee has an opportunity to speak to the overall 2013 year and how she felt she did. Now that Kim has completed all 3 sections of her review, she's going to go ahead and share this with her supervisor, Anne-Marie. Once again, Anne-Marie will receive a nice customized email letting her know that her direct report, Kim, has completed her review and that it's now time for her as the manager to do her part. We're now going to log in as Anne-Marie. We are now in the Performance Object System logged in as Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie was told she needed to complete Kim's actual self-assessment as well. What we can see is that Anne-Marie as the manager now has the exact same 3 opportunities. Because this is a combined review, she's having a chance to rate Kim on both the objectives that she set for herself at the start of the year, as well as a series of competencies, which could either be company-wide that everyone at Alberta Innovates must rate themselves on, or perhaps it's a series of job indicators or competencies that are specific to Kim's role. As a manager, Anne-Marie is now able to open each of Kim's individual goals. She can see what Kim rated herself and the comments she provided. There's also a nice full description of what the goal was. And as a manager, Anne-Marie now has the ability to rate Kim and provide a comment. She's going to go ahead and move through this process for each of the 4 goals that Kim had for herself. And if at any time she needed to leave the system, she could simply hit save and log in later. We can create simple rules such as forced comments that are needed, whether it's the highest or lowest rating. The measurement criteria can be anything from a 1 to 10 to a wording measurement criteria like you see here. Again, these are all just examples. Once Anne-Marie has rated Kim on all of her objectives, she also has a chance to speak to Anne-Marie's professional development. What we can see here is that there's no actual rating because professional development is really something more for discussion than rating. All of the boxes that were once red are now green, letting Anne-Marie know that she has completed everything she needs to do on this page. She can now move over to the competency page. One of the other things you'll notice is that a score has started to tabulate in the upper right-hand corner. Anne-Marie can now move over and the same series of competencies appears. And Anne-Marie, as Kim's manager, can now rate Kim on this series of competencies. Again, you can see they're highlighting as she moves through the process. She could put in a comment to support her rating, or she can simply make selections with the radio buttons. There's also a place where Anne-Marie, as Kim's manager, can answer some feedback questions about Kim. Again, you could have as little or as few questions here as you want, but it's a great place for a manager to speak to Kim's year. Finally, Anne-Marie's going to go over to the last tab. What we're going to see is a couple of things. First of all, the final score has retabulated considering both the objective and the competency piece. And this is that nice final look at the overall review, how each of the competencies was rated by the employee versus the supervisor, any comments that were made on competencies along the way, how the final score was calculated. In this example, I've given a 50-50 weight between competencies and objectives, and responses to questions overall. Anne-Marie, as her supervisor, could now take this form by simply printing it off and take this with her to the sit-down conversation that she and Kim will have. During that conversation, they can review how both people rated themselves, have a good feedback and discussion and leadership conversation, and then Anne-Marie can log into the system as the manager, put in her final comments for the year, and close off the review. Once Anne-Marie has closed off the review, both Kim and Anne-Marie will have a final report of the link that they will forever be able to keep within their workspace. Let me show you what that looks like. Here we are back in Kim's workspace, and what we can see is Kim now has a performance review history section that shows the review that we just completed, the date that the plan was closed, and a link to a final report. This now lives in Kim's workspace, and it is the same final report that breaks down exactly how the entire review went, all comments that were provided, how each of the goals were rated. Kim can choose to either just keep this in her Performance Objects workspace, or she could print it off as a paper copy and keep it at a file of her desk as well. Year over year, as Kim does more performance reviews within the system, she'll build a history. And as her manager, Anne-Marie also has access to the exact same reports, any of her direct reports. I hope this review of the Performance Object System has been helpful.